to One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer. I am the naked-faced host, co-host Vincent Hopper. With me is James Jonas Jackson or Javier Hervé,
Joe Hindenmeyer.
whatever. So, JJ. Before we go any further, I do want to make sure that you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it this week. You can contact us through one cup, one beer at gmail.com. Subscribe to our page by clicking at the icon in the bottom right part of the bottom part of the screen of the corner. And if you're watching this on TV at the end of the show, just use your remote, click up to the circle, hit enter, and you will be subscribed to us. And then, like I said, we will have your souls for life. You can support us through Patreon. Just go to Patreon and type in One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer, and you can find us. And you can support us from anywhere from $3 to $5 to $10 with some perks to go through that. But it really does help us a lot maintain our luxurious lifestyle, which is what we really want. JJ, I got a trivia question for you. Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm always up for that.
Next week, trivia is back. Max is back at school, and he's ready to rock and roll. So we're gonna have trivia back next week. So
I want me to talk to our person that wanted to face us. Talk to
yeah. You just make sure he's got all those technical difficulties solved, and see if he's the first one to knock us off the mountain.
All right. I'm looking forward.
Here's my trivia question: who is the only player in Major League Baseball history to have 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, a 300 career batting average or above, and has won a Triple Crown?
Could it be Miguel Cabrera?
It is. I did not know that.
Hey.
Watching the game, the Cubs are losing 3-0 in the top of the fourth right now to the Tigers, but Cabrera comes up to bat, and they have that stat, and I thought, wow, that's amazing company. And he's got 502 home runs, and that sounds like a lot, but the contemporary hitter that he has most compared to is Albert Pujols, who had 202 more home runs than him. His career batting average is still above 300. I think Albert
he dipped.
Dropped below 200.
The last 4 years in California, he hit maybe 248,
Yeah, so does have a little bit of a higher batting average, but pretty cool. He's not hitting well this year. I think he's only got 2 home runs. It's his last year of that ginormous contract. So
he's been great for the game. He has a lot of fun. When he was in his glory years, I remember the fans would interact with him, or he'd go over and get a little popcorn from one of the kids in the front row and stuff. And I just love the guy.
Yeah, he's always been really great with the kids. And to stick around in Detroit for all those years. They had some success, but not quite the success that they thought they were going to have when he went there. But he's been on some really terrible teams, and it's just kind of kept it going. So he's going to be highly thought of by the Detroit fans for decades to come.
He's a Hall of Famer. That guy's going straight in, first ballot.
We have a friend of the show who had a medical procedure today. Do you have an update on Phil Brooks?
No, I had seen him 2 weeks ago. I wished him well, told him everybody was thinking about him, but I haven't heard anything. Nothing's been posted, and I'll probably hear from him something this week sometime.
Okay, I thought he has posted on Facebook.
He has. He didn't post to me. I didn't see it.
This is what's amazing to me. He has a brain tumor. They went in. It's an outpatient procedure. He doesn't even have anesthesia, and it was a very successful procedure. And this used to be something where you would be. This was something that really upset your life. He drove home. That's how much modern medicine has progressed. He didn't drive home. He could have driven home, but his family wouldn't hear of it. He said on his Facebook post. But JJ's good friend Phil. I barely know him. I know him from here. But Phil, I don't care what your belief system is. If you're religious, say a prayer, light a candle. If you're into good thoughts, anything to help a fellow baseball fan out. So, JJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We had a winner. This is our 47th episode. I keep track of all that. I
And
treat
this
everything like
this
baseball
this
stats.
is an historic winner, by the way.
Yeah, yes, we had 10. Okay, so the contest was name the amount of runs the Cubs and the Cardinals score Saturday and Sunday. So that's 4 games, 2 Cubs, 2 Cardinals. And altogether, the Cubs they won both games. They won 6-4 and 4-3. So that's 10 runs by the Cubbies, and the Cardinals lost 13-2 and won 7-3. So that's 19 runs. We had 10 people participate, and Candy Barks picked 20. She was one off. She wins the Colton Wong bobblehead. She wanted to thank us, and her son is going to be getting that for his birthday. One of the things she gives him for his birthday. So that's pretty darn cool. Yeah, I'm happy for her. Very good. We had people say as little as yes, yes. And we had 2 females out of the 10 were 2 were female out of the 10 contestants this time. So we had more female contestants. I like seeing that.
Yep, mark it down. JJ likes seeing females.
Yeah, it's just me and Vince here. It's nice to see a female, talk to a female. I love their perspective too. Shannon, I love talking to her when she's on here. She's great. So she won, and I watched a couple documentaries this week, Vince, and I don't know if you've ever seen this one called Saving Wrigley Field. Have you seen that? It's like 48 minutes long, and it's about they were looking at Wrigley Field. It was over 100 years old, and it was just kind of getting outdated, and what they could do to fix it up, because they didn't want to get a new stadium. And so they started, this was about the time Theo came over, and they showed pictures of their old locker room, and it was just small, and everybody was on top of each other. And Theo says, we want an updated locker room. So they kind of went underground next to the stadium and made it underground. It was hard because it was sand. They had to use some kind of new style of building, and built this incredible locker room that's round with a cubby thing on the ceiling. It showed the players going in, taking pictures. And then they had nothing, no tables or anything for like massages or any kind of where they could sit in the hot water and all that kind of stuff. So they built this state-of-the-art thing, and they credit all that work into that 2016 World Championship, because Kyle Schwarber went down, and they were going to have to send him out to get worked on, and they could do it there at the stadium. And they said it probably got him back to the team faster. And it was just beautiful. And the concourse down there in Wrigley used to be so small that everybody had to go down if they wanted a drink or something, and they were crammed in there. And they now have stuff at the top of the stadium. They showed them working on it, and they've got that new HD scoreboard. So this was a documentary about Wrigley Field, and I really enjoyed it. It was pretty cool. And that all coincide with the Cubs winning the World Series in 2016. And that's kind of the end of the video.
Yeah, the facilities were very Spartan up until then. And they finished of course they finished the home locker room before. They also updated the visitors locker room, but I think that took another 12, 14 months to do. Players would joke,
of course.
Yeah, they're still having us on top of each other. So it was like during the 80s when guys had long flowing hair and they needed hair dryers. They had trouble finding places to plug these in. And the Cubs, one of the reasons they had a hard time drawing free agents is because, I mean, what do you want to go to a brand new stadium like, in the late 80s, early 90s Camden Yards? Or would you rather go to something that is akin to a small college locker room? So it was one of the highlights that doesn't get talked about in the evolving of the Cubs being a contending team was the upgraded facilities. They didn't even have a batting cage. They used to have to go in. If you were going to pinch hit, you went down and you hit off the tee, and about 10 foot was a wall with a tarp hanging down. You just hit off the tee into that. They didn't even have a batting cage where players could warm up when they were pinch hitting. So it's come a long way, baby.
Yes. And I haven't been to Wrigley since, I'm going to say, 2002. And they now have an area where it's like kids can play in the fountains, and families can sit outside and like picnic, like a little picnic area outside the stadium. So that's really nice. I had no clue that this all, because, as a fan, we don't get to see underneath the stadium and everything. And it's really come a long way. And like you said, no batting cages. They had to put a net up in the locker room, and there'd be people dodging balls, and they'd be hitting into the padding that they put up so they could hit into the padding. And I just didn't realize it was that kind of thing going on. But good for the Cubs. I'm glad Wrigley Field has stayed. I think baseball's better for having Fenway and Wrigley there, because I'm telling you what, it's a treat to go to that ballpark. I'm going to try to make it back up there sooner than later. So I did see that. And another documentary I seen, Vince, I bought this and I hadn't found it for a long time, and our cable was down. So I put this in. It's 1982. It's Bob Uecker is narrating it, but it's the story of the buildup to the 1982 Brewers Harvey Wallbangers. Let me tell you something. This is great. They go back to like 1980, where they're putting the team together. And Yout was like a 19-year-old kid who got invited to spring training and made the team. And here comes Molitor about 4 years later, and that whole team, I can name them all. The big trade with the Cardinals to get Vukovich and Fingers and Simmons. And Uecker does a good job. And at the end, there's specials in there where you can hear Molitor and Yout's Hall of Fame induction speeches. It's pretty darn cool. And we got invited, maybe for a special episode. Tony Pruno said, "Hey, you and Vince, come on over. You watch the Harvey Wallbangers, and you guys can even do an episode from the Palace." So I'm just letting you know that. All right, we'll do that. Maybe number 50 or number 75 or something this winter or something. But that'd be pretty cool. So those two things I got to watch. And the Cardinals this weekend, Cardinal news now. We had our Red Jackets Club, our Cardinal Hall of Fame inductions. Max Lanier went in. A very good pitcher. I'll mention him later, especially some of his statistics. And Jose Oquendo, who, if you just look at his time as a player, he was solid. He was a utility man, but he's much more than that. He's the guy that's sort of branched from Kissel to Ricketts to Oquendo, who's been down in the minors. He was a coach on the team, but he's mainly been in the minors working with guys. I remember one of his Todd Zeal. We had two catchers, Pagnozzi and Zeal, and he taught Zeal to play third, and he did a very nice job being a third baseman. Help guys move to different positions, and he's been down in the minors. All of our guys who come up have worked with Oquendo at one time or another. So he went in, and Albert came back to town to see Oquendo put into the Cardinals Hall of Fame, which was very, very cool. And a lot of people who live in DeSoto, Missouri know Oquendo. He's always around in town. I don't know if he lives there anymore, but his kids all played high school sports at DeSoto. And I think he helped get them a new baseball field. So if you ever go out there, they got a pretty nice baseball field for Jefferson County. And Oquendo had a lot to do with that. Other things going on. Let's see. We have a new center fielder, and I love these kind of stories. We got him for cash considerations from Cleveland, and his name is Richie, and I'm going to screw up the last name, Palakaios, and he's a second baseman outfielder, and he's been playing center field because we've got so many people. We got 9 people in the DL right now, and he's made some eye-popping plays out there. And tonight, Richie's playing for the Cardinals, and his brother Joshua is the center fielder for the Pirates. And Vince, I don't know about you, but I love stories like that. What's the chances of making the big leagues anyway? They're both from Puerto Rico, worked their way up through the minors, and they're both in the big leagues now, and they're playing each other, the Pirates and the Cardinals, and they're both playing center field. So I think that's just a cool story right there. Let's see. The Cardinals have been horrible. No, that's no news for anybody. But on the good side, if the season ended right now, we get the number 5 pick in each round. So, with some rain comes some sunshine right there. So we're the number 5 pick. I know it's Oakland and Kansas City, and I think Rockies are in there, and I don't know who the other one is, but then us at 5. So right now that's going on. Like I said, we have 9 guys on the DL, and this is kind of sad. We have Gorman and Donovan, Matz, Helsley, Carlson. Let's see, Newt Barr, Packy Naughton's on the DL, Woodford's on the DL, and Rodriguez. Rodriguez was the guy who never made it out of spring training. He's been hurt all year. He's a bullpen guy. We got him out of the international draft, and we thought he was going to be pretty good, but
that's a pretty good team you got on the DL there.
Yeah, I think our DL team could give our starters or that's right, IR run for their money. Well, the Mason Wynn era has started. He's played 4 games for us. He's got 3 hits. And Vince, I was going to ask you this question. You know what I'm going to say? Now, I'm going to hold what I'm going to say, and I think you probably agree on this. But he got his first hit, an infield hit against the Mets. The ball's thrown over. He legged it out at first. And I thought I seen some Cardinals going like this. That's like the universal sign of, hey, throw the ball in. It's the kid's first hit. I don't know what Alonso was thinking, but he turned. I never seen a ball when they are safe at first where they take the ball and just throw it in the stands. And he threw it in the stands, and I'm sitting there, and my first reaction was, what the heck? That was the kid's first hit. What's he doing? And so what did you think about that? Did you hear about that story?
I read about it first, and I thought it was an accident. And then when I saw it, I had second thoughts. And so I researched it. How can I put this and keep this a family show?
Oh.
Alonso is pretty much a jerk. I'll put it that way. He rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And he's said that he did it on accident. Well, apparently he's never just tossed the ball into the stands before. So I don't know if he was trying to be funny or whatever, but there's no way he could have known something special. The crowd is cheering. The sign, unless he is completely out of the loop when he's on the field, which maybe he is, I don't know, because fielding isn't one of his things. You've got to be in the game enough to know that I've never seen this guy before. The crowd's going crazy. He gets a hit. Got a first base coach there is probably saying, hey, it's first major league hit. And then he threw it in there. But the overkill of apology was like, all right, so, you're sending the guy tequila. You give the fan an autograph bat to get the ball back and everything. Okay, so I made amends for it. But I don't know if his sense of humor so worked, he was trying to be funny, but trying to antagonize the crowd. I don't know, but the more I'm digging up on Alonso, he's kind of got that reputation. So,
well, there was one dust up with him one time where there was like a scuffle on a thing, and Stubby Clapp, the first base coach, wrapped him up and kept him from getting involved, and just let him set it out. And I think there was some hard feelings there. I don't know, but he said, I could put some people in the hospital. So Brad Thompson, every time he mentions him on the radio, says, he could put people in the hospital. He always says that. But I was like, what the heck? And then I saw the Cardinals yelling at him, and he goes, okay. And later, Arenado got a hit, and they played together in the World Baseball Classic, and they were just talking, and it seemed fine. And he apologized, and I was like, well, no harm, no foul. He came out looking kind of bad on that, but that's baseball. We've all made mistakes before. I didn't hold him too hard on that. He got the ball. That's cool. And maybe some good will come out of it. I don't know.
But anyway, it's something that he normally did, and that was just kind of like his reaction. He normally did that, but apparently that's not something he normally does.
No, I had never seen that on a hit. Maybe on a ball that was a foul and got dirt on it. Yeah, I could see that.
Crowd. Yeah.
something like that. But anyway, so we had that, but Wynn has looked really good. I know he's trying to impress. Seems like he's pressing a little bit, but man, he looked good at short, Vince. I'm excited. This kid's, he's an athlete. I don't know, I know his first year, I don't know what he's going to hit, but I know with time, and he seems like a hard worker. And I just like this kid. I think he's going to get better and better with time. And we may, as long as he don't get hurt, we might have a special player for a long time. Him and Walker coming up together. This could be fun. And it's nice to have something to look forward to, Vince. I know you've had some Cub years where it's down and bleak. This gives me some hope for the future with these young kids and everything.
Did you see where Paul DeYoung landed?
Well, I seen he got released by Toronto.
He got DFA by Toronto, yes.
But he ended. I did not know he ended up with somebody else.
Yeah, the Giants picked him up.
Well,
a few hours ago.
Well, that's okay. See, I hadn't heard that yet. Well, good for him, because the people we got for him have actually done okay. They've been okay. So I'm happy for him. You never know what's going to happen if you fight, get in the big leagues. The Giants are a team that could make the playoffs this year. He might have a great fall.
I think they're in the third wild card spot right now. And
right.
I don't know what happened in Toronto.
I
but they don't. They're fighting for a playoff chance. They don't have time to let this guy get settled in and get hot. They had to. Bo Bichette's coming back. This guy's sitting under 100. We have to let him go. And Bo Bichette picked right up where he left off. When he got off the injured list. So,
when they had all those young players, I thought, and Vladdy Guerrero Jr. is phenomenal, but I thought he was the big star. But maybe Bo Bichette's that guy. But Vince, I wasn't big on all these teams making the playoffs, but man, it's going to be fun. I mean, there's only like 6 of us teams that are just sitting there watching you guys battle it out. It's going to be fun. Everybody's most of the teams have a shot, and it's going to be fun. Teams that haven't made the playoffs in a long time, and it'll be fun. Houston, they're struggling a little bit right now. I know they're way out there, but nothing's for sure. And then you want to get that bye. And I don't know, Vince, I'm excited. This is going to be fun. I don't have a dog in the fight, so I can just sit back and enjoy it. And there's so much good baseball going on right now. It's not even funny. We had a kid that we got in the Montgomery deal, and he was killing it in Memphis. And he came up a pitch yesterday and had a horrible start. But I think being your first start, I thought he was just excited. And I hope he gets another chance. His name's Drew Rom. He had 2 great games in the minors. He struck out 18 in 11 innings and just was killing down there. We brought him up because Libator had to move back for some stiffness in his arm. And he got rocked last night by Pittsburgh. But I hope the next time around he gets another shot, because, it's tough on a kid. I know he was giving it his all, but they were rocking him last night. So maybe next time. But we've had some.
I was going to say, it's really tough to have that spot start be your major league debut, because you were so amped up, and in hitting, you can be amped up, and, that's just going to put you a little more, speed up your bat a little bit, hit the fastball a little bit better. But when you're pitching and you're amped up, you speed up, you lose control. Your pitches aren't sharp. And it's just very tough to make that your major league debut as a spot start. It's tough to make your major league debut anyway as a pitcher, to rein in those emotions so you could pitch like you normally would. But that spot start's very difficult. So I don't think that's you can't measure his future by that.
No, and I know these kids, like, I don't know how many chances I'm going to get. I'm going to do my very best. I'm going to make the best. And then it just puts stress on you and everything. We're out of it. Let's look at the kids. And I want to see that kid pitch again. I'm excited about it. Now, some of the guys that we've taken a look at here down the stretch here have done very well. Dakota Hudson, I wish he had done this all year. He's 5-0 now. And the last 7 starts have all been very, very good. Libator is looking better. Steven Matz, who is hurt right now, man, he has come on since coming out of that bullpen. So that's fantastic. Contreras is hitting the daylights out of the ball. And I want to recall this in the wintertime. Everybody was saying we need a catch. This was before Contreras came here. We need a catcher. We need a catcher. And the Toronto had 3 catchers they said would be better than anything we got, and we should trade for them. And I don't know what they wanted, but we didn't go in that direction. But right now, Kisner is having a better year than any 3 of their Toronto catchers. So sometimes a good trade is a trade you don't make.
Yeah.
And between Kisner and Contreras, I'm really happy with how the catchers are hitting. And then we got Herrera coming too. So this winter, we can't keep Kisner and Herrera. One of them's going to be probably dealt a trade to get some pitching. So and Herrera's had a great year too. So it'll probably be Herrera that goes, I have to say, because he's got a lot of I think a lot of promise. This John King that we got in a trade with Rangers, he's pretty much coming to the bullpen and has done fantastic. He's got a 1.50 ERA. He's pitched 6 innings, and he's pretty much taken over where Stratton was at. So that's kind of an even swap there. He's doing a fine job, and we really like him. And I was going to talk about the DFAs. Carson Kelly got DFA'd from Arizona. I don't know where he's going to end up.
He's in Detroit. He caught against the Cubs last night. I was surprised they turned on the channel and said, and the newest Tiger batting 9th for the Tigers is Carson Kelly. And I thought,
Kelly. How about that? Well, he was the guy that's supposed to take over from Molina, but Molina played like a couple more years, so we ended up dealing him. And in the Goldschmidt trade, which we stole Goldschmidt, and so now he's up there, which good. I want to see him have a nice career. He's been solid. I don't know who's catching mainly for Arizona now. Man, it's hard to keep up with everybody. And then we talked about DeYoung, and we talked about Wong got DFA'd, but he's now with the Dodgers.
Yes.
What a place that's a nice place to end up right there. So he might get some, he's a veteran, might get some playing time in the playoffs. What else? Oh, this week, the Cardinals were 55-71. I'm not going to go over this too much. This week, we're 2-5. It was just brutal. And most of the games we're losing, they're not really a contest. We're just getting smoked. So it's just depressing. But one of the kids we got from Texas, who I saw play in Springfield, I'm going to mess up his last name, Tom Segaris. He's a second baseman. He hit for the cycle the other night. He's hitting 353 in 18 games. He's hitting about 320 for the season. He's 21 years old. He was their 5th round pick for Texas. And I tell you what, with him coming, that makes it where we could probably trade either Edman or Donovan. And if Edman's probably going to be the odd man out, of course, Edman might play center field next year. I don't know what's going to go on, but we have now it looks like we got the 2 big utility men and this other kid coming, but he's just in Double-A right now, but he looks like he might be something special too. And last thing, Vince, I was going to talk about this. I had a couple things I want to go on, but this is my little rant at the end of this. I saw several articles talking about, the greatest fans of baseball. That is kind of an albatross around our neck, the greatest fans of baseball. I didn't say it. Although I'll put my fandom up against anybody's. I'm a crazy nut. I love my Cardinals just probably as much as you love the Cubs and somebody else loves your relative loves the Mets. But everybody's got one family member like that. But you can look at the recap of the game and you can see the attendance. And this weekend, there was a lot of empty seats, but the Cardinals had 42,000 tickets sold Friday, 40 on Saturday, and 39,000 on Sunday. And one of the things I can't compare, but the Cardinals have great giveaways. And I think it was so hot this weekend, a lot of people just went and got their gift and sat over there at Ballpark Village in the air conditioning and watched the game over there or something. But the ballpark looked empty. That's kind of sad, but they're still selling 42, averaging 40,000 seats. And for home games, the Cardinals are the 3rd biggest attraction in baseball behind the Dodgers and Yankees. And we're the 21st biggest city in the United States. So I'm pretty proud of that. It goes Dodgers, Yankees, Cardinals, Padres, Atlanta, Houston. And then on away games, the Cardinals are 4th biggest because Cardinal fans travel, and the Cubs are 5th biggest on the road teams because a lot of Cubs fans travel. I know when they come to St. Louis, it's like, man, 40% of the crowd's Cub fans at the ballpark. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there that we still love our team. It looks sad that park's about empty, but we're still on track. We're still selling tickets anyway. So that's it, Vince. That's all I got on Cardinal news right there.
Yeah, was it the Sunday game where they had the red jacket induction?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I saw a few people were complaining about the crowd. It's a day game, number one. Number two,
Hot.
it was desert-like conditions. And a day game with the sun being down triple digits, it's miserable. Number three, let's face it, Lanier and Okendo are not the sexiest players.
Yeah.
It's not like Pujols or Yachty or Brock or Gibson or anybody else that Simmons. It was two players that were good, but really you don't think about as far as greatness. So I didn't really pay that much attention, and I know some people were complaining about it. Some Cardinal fans were complaining about it. My problem is I belong to a few groups for both teams, and I was reading my wife one of the complaints. I don't usually comment, but we were playing Detroit yesterday, and they had a pitcher who I can't remember his name now. I'd never seen him before. I was telling JJ before we started recording this, he had a slider that was just tremendous last night. And we did scratch 3 runs off of him. We eventually won the game. But during the game, someone was complaining, yeah, we'd scored 4 runs on 3 hits at that time, complaining, yeah, even though we've got 4 runs, we've only got 3 hits, blah, 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 blah. And so I just said, we're facing a pitcher who's got a tremendous slider working tonight to go along with his other 2 pitches. So, yeah, it's very tough to hit. I don't know if this guy is going to be a really great major league pitcher, but I know even average major league pitchers have their days. Hey, I saw Chuck Rainey come 1 out from throwing a no-hitter in about 1983. Chuck Rainey, who's practically a softball pitcher. So anybody can have their day. And so I made that comment, and he basically said, I guess you don't know anything about pitching.
Oh, yeah. I know those people.
Whatever. So, hey, in Cubbie news, we went 4-2 this week since our last broadcast. Tuesday night, we opened with the Pale Host from the south side of Chicago, where Bad Leeward Brown is from. I wonder if he's still alive, even though he's a fictional character.
I don't know.
He'd be an old man by now.
The Road Warriors were from down there,
and that they were actually from Minneapolis. You know that. So.
Oh, well, they always would talk about the bad side of Chicago.
The one-man gang was from Halsted Street, Chicago. No, he was from South Carolina. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, Tuesday we lost to the Pale Host 5-3 to start the Crosstown series. And being that was the game, the 2 games you're playing in Wrigley was kind of deflating. But Wednesday we won the game 4-3. We were down 3-0 going into the bottom of the 8th. We looked flat. We looked terrible. Madrigal goes up to pinch hit. Madrigal, who is about 2'8", weighs about 61 pounds, hit a home run into the basket. Pinch hitting in the 8th made it 3-1. Excuse me. So we're down 3-1 in the 9th. There's 2 men on, and Morel comes up against Santos, their closer. And if you haven't seen the highlights of this, it's one of the highlights of the whole season for Major League Baseball. On a 1-2 pitch, he takes him deep, walk-off 3-run home run. Morel, I love him. He sprints around the bases. He doesn't do a home run try. He sprints around the bases as he's rounding third coming home. He rips off his jersey, so he's got the blue undershirt on, touches home because, the player's going to rip his jersey off. Well, the jersey's gone already, so they just rip his undershirt off. Good thing the guy is chiseled, and he's like, ugh. It was so exciting. I watched that a few times, so that was really a jolt of energy we needed. The Talkman catch against the Cardinals and this home run are the 2 signature moments so far for the Cubs this season.
Magical things happen in a pennant drive.
Oh, they
Sometimes
do.
just things out of the blue. Yeah,
They
it's
do.
going to be great.
And Morel is mired in a terrible slump. He's batting like 130 in August. So this kind of came out of nowhere because he is fighting it right now, but boy, he took it deep and the place went nuts. So Friday, the Royals come into town and we celebrated with a 4-3 loss to the Royals. So Saturday, we won 6-4. Steele wins his 14th, which leads Major League Baseball. Bellinger hits 2 more bombs, so we tie the Royals 1-1. And then in the rubber game on Sunday, we defeat the Royals 4-3. Hendricks had 6 1/3 innings of pitch, 1-run ball. Suzuki and Amaya hit home runs. And then last night we go to Detroit, we won 7-6. We looked flat. This is one of those victories that we really had to grind to win it. Assad pitched 5 1/3, 2 runs, but he didn't get the decision. We have a depleted bullpen right now, so we had to kind of piece together the bullpen, and they hit the bullpen, scored some runs, but we still hung on. Suzuki hit another home run. So 4-2. Very pleased with the week. We are playing week competition now, and we finished with Detroit. We have to go to Pittsburgh for 4 games. So once we're done with that, we have the Brewers. So
That's gonna be good.
we need to keep winning these games. It's sometimes fans have a hard time understanding why you just don't crush bad teams this time of the year. It's because these teams are out of it. They have players who are playing for jobs for next year. Just like the Cubs last year, we had a really good August and a really good September because we had a lot of hungry guys come up and play their butts off. And it becomes very difficult to defeat a team like that. So this Royals team that's playing now is not the Royals team that completely sucked a few months ago. They are playing for something, as the Cardinals found out when they played them.
Oh, yeah.
This Detroit team, they're playing for something. The White Sox have been playing a little bit better lately. So the Pirates, I hope they just give it up. I hope they just say forget it. I hope they say, you know what, we're gonna forfeit these next 4 games. You guys can just go home. So let's see if that happens.
They're dangerous. They're dangerous. We're having trouble with them, but yeah.
In other news, Marcus Stroman was coming back. He had inflammation in the hip, and it was a legit injury. They had to give him a cortisone injection to get the inflammation down. So he's doing a bullpen session. He's ready to come back. And I even said last week, my notes, Marcus Stroman is back. He after his bullpen session, he goes and does a little bit of fielding, and he starts to notice some discomfort in his chest cavity. He actually goes to the emergency room. They do an EKG, and his heart's fine. And they send him home. The pain gets a little more intense, and so they do an MRI the next day. And he has a fracture in the cartilage of his ribs. So we have no idea how long this takes to heal because it's not a baseball injury. He has no idea how it happened. It's kind of a fluky thing. We do know this. We have 6 weeks left in the season. He's shut down. So let's say it takes 4 weeks to heal. Then he's going to have to ramp back up. So his season may be over. And he hasn't pitched well since the middle of June, since London. But we're running out of arms. And I went through that last week. What really scares me is, are we going to have enough starting pitching to make it to the finish line? So Stroman's going to be out. And one of the ripple effects is that Assad started again yesterday, pitched really well. We had to bring Drew Smiley out of the bullpen, put him back in the rotation. And the first 2 innings, he'd given up 3 runs, so he's kind of back to where he was. And I haven't been checking the score since we've been on here. I've just been silently praying that we score some runs. We're down 3-0. So, but anyway, we have that issue with the starting pitching, and I'm thinking that the Cubs are just kind of playing it this way. Hey, we're gonna approach this as if he's not coming back. Does he want to come back? You better believe he wants to come back, because he wanted to come back and he wanted to pitch really well, not just get the Cubs to the playoffs, but he wants that big contract. They're not going to extend him. He wanted to look good for some other team, and he's not going to have that advantage. It's going to look like his last few months, he pitched terrible. He's got a player option for next year. If he exercises the option, he's going to make $21 million with the Cubs for next year. So he's going to make money next year. He can gamble and still go ahead and try free agency. I don't think most players would. I think they would take the team option. With Stroman, he's a different cat. And I could see him gambling and saying, yeah, I still want to try free agency. I still want to try for that 4 or 5 year contract to finish out my career. And maybe he gets it somewhere. I don't know, but we do have that.
How old is he?
I think he's about 32, somewhere around there.
This might be the last time he gets a big contract, too.
So it's going to make, I mean, I would probably be able to retire on 21 million.
Yeah, I'd have to cut back a little bit. But
60 million I've made the other portion of my career, maybe, but I can't understand. I mean, he doesn't want to end up on welfare, so try for that big contract.
Right.
Tucker Barnhart has been DFA'd, and we had five free agents this year. We had Bellinger, who I liked, Swanson, who I liked, Trey Mancini, who at the beginning of the year I liked the signing, and then about 3 weeks into the season I saw a big mistake. And Hosmer wasn't a free agent. I mean, he was going to get paid by the Padres no matter what, but we gave him a shot. I didn't like that, and he's gone. I never did like the Tucker Barnhart. We signed him for 2 years. He has been terrible the last 2 years. Last year in Detroit, not only could he not hit, this former Gold Glove catcher was not good. The metrics weren't good with his defense. So, but I did understand we needed a backup catcher. And at that time, we were saying was, well, Gomes is 1A and Barnhart's 1B. It'd be like a 60-40 split. Well, that kind of diminished as we realized that Barnhart sucks. So what did we do? We brought up Amaya, who I went over on this podcast, has had a litany of injuries. So he was kind of a surprise that he was playing so well, that he was healthy. And they've showed enough confidence in him that they DFA Barnhart, and Amaya is now our backup catcher. And he celebrated with a home run on Sunday. Hey. So, well, that was actually a day or two before Barnhart got DFA. But I'm sorry that he's going to get paid by us next year, probably start somewhere else, but he's done. Could be a nice guy, but he's just done. And as we speak right now, we are 2.5 games out of first, behind the Brew Crew. We are in second place, and we do hold the second wild card spot right now, a half game ahead of the team that's got the third wild card spot. That is the San Francisco Paul DeYoungs.
Hey, there you go.
Like what I did there.
I like what you did there. Yeah. You know, the Giants, I give them credit, man. They go out and they try to get a big free agent. It didn't happen this year, but they collectively, that's a good playing team. They give you everything they got. I'm not blown away by their roster, but at the end, they got 2 big studs at the top, a nice bullpen at the end, and 8 good starters and some guys that just work their butts off on that bench. And they can give anybody a run for their money, but you don't look at them and get wild. But every year, most years are right there in it,
They remind me of the National League version of the Rays, except the Rays, when their players get to the point of free agency, they generally let them go and reload because they have a tremendous minor league system. The Giants tend to hold on to their players and probably hold on to them a little bit too long. Some of them, Brandon Belt, for example, but they kind of, the players come up, they're not intimidated by the show. They're not as talented as their competition for the most part, but they've bred this winning culture that filters on down the organization. So by the time they get to San Francisco, these players expect to win. And you know, who are their stars? Posey has
yeah.
retired.
They got Crawford, Brandon Crawford.
Crawford
He's a star. He's a San Francisco star, but around the league, I think most kids don't know who he is.
Yeah,
but I do. I think he's a good
very
player.
good shortstop, but he's not a great player.
Right.
They just seem to have this culture of where they expect to win, and they generally do. 2 years ago, when they won like 106 games, 107 games, so was that 2
Out of
years ago?
nowhere.
It's like, this team is not that good. How are they doing this? It's that culture that they've built. So, pretty cool. Hey, JJ, let me ask you a
sir.
question. A little bit
of course.
Question. Do you ever have
look out
issues in your personal relationships?
Oh, you would have. We all do. We all do. I need some help, Vince.
You want to know who you can go to for some help?
Who's that? I'm getting a pen out right now.
Jeremy Connor. Just watch this.
Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast.
I love Jeremy Connor. Great guy.
Jeremy's a great guy. JJ had an idea. Let's do our Mount Rushmore of our team's managers. So the first thing I had to do was to Google what is Mount Rushmore. And then I had to count each one of the heads to find out how many I wanted to do. And then I was really embarrassed to find out that none of those four even managed a major league game. I mean,
oh man, I was going to do the Great Wall of China wall of managers, but that'd be a little too long. I think we only got an hour and a half.
Do we want to trade off, or do you want to do your?
Let's trade off. Yeah, let's trade off. Go 4 up to 1 if you like. It's fun going and researching all this because I learned a lot that some things I didn't even know, and it's just fun to go back and look through all the managers we've had.
Well, kick us off.
All right. One thing I learned in the 1800s, sometimes the Cardinals would have 6 managers. I think the owner must have just woke up one day and said, you're out, you're in. And they would have a year where they'd have 6 managers. So there's really no nothing constant in the 1800s. It was just a guy here and a guy there. So since 1900, the Cardinals have had 33 managers. That's pretty good. That's not a whole lot of managers over 123 seasons. So my number 4, and the Cardinals really are great successes, the 40s, the 60s, the 80s, the late 2000s, and the early 2010s. That's kind of like when we really had our great teams together. But I put number 4 is Albert Red Shandings at number 4. Now, you probably thought I'd go higher with Red Shandings.
I thought, well, yeah, if you're going to go higher, then we are going to eventually get to Vern Rapp. So.
Rapp, that's a great call from the back, man. If you guys don't know who Vern Rapp is, look that up. If you blink, you miss Vern Rapp. It's about a year and a half.
Rapp would love my haircut.
I put Red Shandings. That you would get to play today. That's right. If Grabowski sits on the bench, you're playing. But Red Shandings, if you look on that left field wall, he's number 2. He's got a retired number. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Cardinals Hall of Fame. But one thing, he's a baseball lifer, mainly a Cardinal lifer. He had coached for a few other teams too. I think we traded him Milwaukee Braves late in his career, and he came back and was a manager with us and a coach, a scout. He hit the fungos to the outfielders, pretty much was a Cardinal most of his career. Red Shandings, if you put his playing and his managing together, well, I'd put him at number 1, but we're just doing the managing. So he's number 4. He managed the Cardinals from 1965 to 1976. And he also, between managers, would come in and fill in while they were interviewing other managers. He managed a little bit in 1980 and a little bit in 1990. So he did have some other things in there. In those 12 years, he had 7 winning seasons. He went to 2 World Series, 67 and 68. Let's see, won 1, lost 1. He has the second most wins as a Cardinal manager, 1,041 but 955 losses for a 522 winning percentage. And I always think of him is in the 60s, you had Vietnam going on, you had all the civil rights things, and the Cardinals was one of the first teams that we had a lot of Hispanic players, we had a lot of African American players, and a lot of white players, and they seemed to get along really good. And it was just a thing to see that we had Cha-Cha Cepeda and Julian Javier and Lou Brock and Bob Gibson and Tim McCarver and Ted Simmons and all these players, and they loved one another and played great together. And it was just, at that time in America, it was really good to see that. And Red was the coach of the team. Now, Red was never known as a strategist so much, but the guys play hard for him. He was old school, and it seemed, I remember those great years. But really, the 60s was when he flourished. Once we got to the 70s and the Pirates and the Phillies kind of took over, we were always like a 3rd and 4th place team. So my 4th place manager for the St. Louis Cardinals all time is Red Shandings.
My first head that I'm going to put up on Mount Rushmore, and this is one that probably is more personal than results oriented. I have Jim Fry, who managed the Cubs from 84 to 87. And he had one winning season in 84. 85, the Cubs had a lot of injuries, and in 86, they did not win. Jim Fry, the reason I put him on here is because in 84, he won the division title, the first time the Cubs had seen the postseason in 40 years, actually 39 years. And by this time, it had become a real albatross around our necks that we had not made the postseason for decades now. So when we did make the postseason, remember at that time only 4 teams got into the postseason, it was a big deal. And Jim Fry also managed the Royals. He came, I think, from the Baltimore organization where he worked for a long time. And he also had a stint as the GM for the Cubs. But it was a very talented team. I could go Jody Davis catcher, Leon Durham first, Sandberg MVP second, Larry Boa third, Ron Say third, left field Gary Matthews, Sarge center field Bob Denier, and in right field Keith Moreland. So, and Rick Sutcliffe went 16-1. So he did have an uber talented team, but he was the first manager in 40 years to get us over the hump to see some postseason action. So he's my number 4.
All right. I like that. My number 3 is a guy that he had kind of an unusual career with the Cardinals. His name's Billy Southworth, and he managed in the 40s. Now, he first managed at the end of the 1929 season, and the team didn't do, they weren't a real successful team in 29. He goes down in the minors, and he works his way up as a manager in the minor leagues, and he takes Rochester, which was a Cardinal affiliate at the time, to the championship. So in 1940, he becomes the Cardinal manager, and this was a great time for Cardinal baseball. Let's see. Okay, so from 41 to 45, the Cardinals won 97 games, 106, 105, 105, and 95. Wow, that's pretty impressive. And listen to this lineup at the time. It's kind of easy to be a manager when you got these guys on your team. We had a young, like a 21 through 25-year-old Stan Musial. We had Marty Marion, Enos Slaughter, Mort Cooper, and Max Lanier, who just went in the Cardinal Hall of Fame. I'll mention something about Max here in a minute. But 3 World Series consecutive, they went to the World Series. Remember, back there in the 40s, there was no playoffs. You had to win the pennant, and then you go to the World Series. So we be in let me get this right. 42 we beat the Yankees. 43 we lose to the Yankees, and then 44, and that was the series with the St. Louis Browns, and that's kind of when the Browns' popularity waned a little bit, and the Cardinals went even farther up. It was like that 1944. It could have been the Browns that stayed and the Cardinals that left, but that World Series right there, because the Browns never really sniffed the playoffs again, and the Cardinals went on to have some great years. But Billy Southworth was he's the winningest percentage in Cardinal history at 642. He left there and went on to manage the Boston Braves. I'm not sure why he left, but that was 1945. Of course, he had to deal with World War II, players leaving, players coming back. So anyway, a 642 winning percentage, and Billy Southworth. Now, I'm going to mention a pitcher here, Max Lanier. Max Lanier is the first person, you know how Curt Flood, the antitrust or whatever, he said, I'm not going to Philadelphia, and he pretty much, that ruined his career. It was over. Max Lanier did this, but he did it like 25 years earlier. There was a rule in baseball, you couldn't go play in the Mexican League. The Mexican League was going to pay Max Lanier twice as much as he made in the MLB. So Max Lanier and about 7 other players went down to Mexico to play ball down there, but the conditions were so bad they wanted to come back, and the commissioner said, no, you're suspended for 5 years. Well, he shortened it to 2. So he had to set out 2 years, and he came back. But anyway, I didn't know that story about Max Lanier, and he went to the Cardinal Hall of Fame, and I thought I'd just throw that in there. But Billy Southworth is my number 3, and your turn, Vince.
My number 3 is Charlie Grimm. Despite the name, he seemed to be a pretty happy guy. He had 3 stints with the Cubs. He managed them from 32 through 38. Then he went back in 44 and managed them from 44 to 49. And then as an old man, he returned for the 1960 season. He had a 946 and 782 record for a 547 winning percentage. He won pennants in 1935 and in 1945. So Charlie Grimm, he's my second player on the Mount Rushmore. And as you can see, I'm not talking about World Series championships, my first 2. I'm talking about this guy wore a very nice hat and drove a nice car. So he's the third one on Mount Rushmore. Anyway, Charlie Grimm is my number 3. He did bring us 2 pennants. And managed there for a total of, I think, 9 or 10 years, 2 pennants at the time. And that team in 45 was the last time we saw the playoff or the postseason until 84.
Very good. Well, my number 2 is my favorite Cardinal manager, but I put him at number 2, and that is Whitey Herzog. I love Whitey Herzog. Whitey Herzog had a great career going with Kansas City Royals, and for some reason, they let him go. To this day, I'm very grateful. And Augie Bush wanted him to come here, and he had total control. They also made him the GM. So to get Whitey here, they made him the manager and the GM. He put Red in to manage that year, and then he did a lot of trades. And at the time, Vince, these were not popular. He traded Ted Simmons and Pete Vukovich and Terry Kennedy, but we weren't winning. We weren't successful. And he made this team, and the style of ball was it was Whitey ball, and it was like he called them the Jackrabbits. Everybody was just running, stealing over 300 bases. It was so fun and exciting. And Whitey was a character. He'd sit and tell you stories and have some cheese and drink a beer, and it was just a happy time in St. Louis, those 1980s. A lot of good players came through, a lot of fun times. Willie McGee, who doesn't love Willie McGee? Ozzie Smith. We stole Willie McGee from the Yankees. Ozzie, we traded Templeton over and got Ozzie, and I did like Templeton, but Ozzie, my goodness. We went to 3 World Series in that time and won one of them in 1982. And that's the first. I went to game 1, by the way. We lost 10-0 against a great Brewer team. And I thought we were better than the Twins and the Royals, but they ended up kicking our butts. But we did get a World Series out of it. And Whitey was there from 80 to 90. He won 822 games and lost 728 for a 530 winning percentage. And I think Whitey would have managed the team many, many more years if Augie Bush had lived longer. But once Augie died, the kids took the team and they really didn't care for the next 5 years. And Whitey went ahead and left. So my number 2, the great, and I got him on the wall back. Wait a minute, right there. There's Whitey, right there on the back wall. Whitey Herzog.
You brought something up that made me think a little bit. They traded Simmons.
Yeah.
And the big thing
Simmons.
was Whitey asked Simmons, can you play first? And Simmons said, don't want to. So he traded him. If Simmons says, yes, I'll play first, does Hernandez get traded?
Yeah, because the way I heard it many times is Whitey, Keith Hernandez had some issues, off the field issues, and Bush didn't want him on the team, and he gave him a deadline to trade him, and we got Neil Allen. I think if we had like a year to trade him and find a good trading partner, we could have got something more for him. Nothing against Neil Allen, but he ain't no Keith Hernandez. And I miss Keith, and Keith's in the Cardinal Hall of Fame. We still have a good relationship with him, and he still comes back to St. Louis for special occasions. But seeing him go to the evil New York Mets, Vince, I haven't gotten over that yet. I still got heartburn thinking about Keith Hernandez on the New York Mets. But yeah, I think Keith would have went and Ted would have played first, but it all worked out. Ted went up there. Milwaukee fell in love with him. Ted Simmons was my childhood favorite player, though.
And that would have been interesting to see what kind of a haul that Hernandez could have got, because he was just 2 years removed from that 79 season where he was unconscious.
Yes, sir.
So, and not from drugs. I mean, he was
yeah.
On the number 2 place, I don't know if that's the Thomas Jefferson place. I don't know.
I can't remember where they're at.
But anyway, I got to go back to the archives to 1905 through 1912. Frank Chance was our manager. He had a winning percentage of .664.
My
768 wins in 7 or 8 years. So he averaged almost 100 wins. And this is when the schedules were 154 games. He won the pennant in 06, 07, 08, 09, and 07 and 08. They were the World Series champs. And the reason I don't have him number 1, he does have more success than my number 1, is because there was no stigma of the Cubs at that time. He didn't have to fight through decades of futility and this completely negative fan base that, for good reason, had watched all this heartbreak for all these years. I mean, he was just managing another team and just happened to have the best team during those years. And so 4 pennants, 2 World Series in 8 years. Great job by Frank Chance. Cubs took a chance on him and he delivered.
He's the Tinker Evers to Chance. He's that Chance. Okay, yes. I thought so. My goodness. Well, my number 1, and a lot of people, he's one of these guys, if he's on your team, you love him. If he's not on your team, you probably can't stand him. But Tony La Russa. I love Tony La Russa. Tony La Russa he always had a veteran-heavy team. A lot of the young guys, he wanted to go with the veterans. He traded for veterans. He brought a lot of guys over from Oakland. Dave Duncan was maybe one of the best things he brought over from Oakland. Dave Duncan, pitching coach extraordinaire. Dave Duncan probably could have been a manager somewhere, but he was happy being Tony's pitching coach, and maybe the first pitching coach that goes into the Hall of Fame. I think Dave Duncan might be a Hall of Famer one day as a pitching coach, which I don't think that's ever happened. So anyway, Tony comes over here in 96. We weren't very good. This was after the DeWitt family buys the team, and Tony's the guy they wanted. He came over. He had been in Oakland a long time, but the team was getting old and things were changing in Oakland, so he came to St. Louis. And in 96, we made the playoffs, and we hadn't made the playoffs since 87. So he builds this team. And the thing about Tony La Russa, his 9 strong innings, don't take any at bats off, work. Had all them veterans. He had Rowland and Pujols and Edmonds and Larry Walker and all these guys, Carlos Beltran, and then Yachty came up, and Waino, and all these veteran pitchers, Supine and Woody Williams and all these guys. And we had quite the success in his 16 years. And that's the reason I put him up there, his longevity with the Cardinals. 96 to 2011. And of course, what an ending to the story as far as the Cardinals go. His last game was the game 7 of the 2011 World Series. We win the Rangers. I was at that game, by the way. And we go out as world champions, and Tony supposedly rides off to the sunset, becomes a Hall of Famer, and then he goes to the White Sox, and that didn't go so well. And he's a very old man now.
Playoffs once with the Sox, so
Yeah, that's true. That is true. 544 winning percentage, and all the guys have great stories of, not everybody loved him, but a lot of the players do. And he gave a lot through all these years, even with the White Sox and the A's and the Cardinals. He gave a lot of guys coaching opportunities. And one of his good friends is Jim Leland, who thinks the world of him and gave him his first coaching opportunity. And Jim Leland's a great manager. So my number one, Tony La Russa.
well, my number one, of course, is Joe Madden. He managed the team from 2015 to 2019. 5 years, he won 471 games, lost 339, 582 winning percentage. He made the playoffs in all 5 of his years with the Cubs. And he took the team to 3 straight National League Championship Series at 15, 16, and 17. 2016 won the whole thing. And the reason I put him at number one is because he got the monkey off our back, the monkey house, the jungle off our back, the Kongs off our back, however, whatever metaphor I could use to hammer this home. Cardinal fans really have no idea what it's like being a Cub fan. We are used to the shoe dropping. Somehow, some way, something's going to happen. Something weird is going to happen to us because we, the Chicago Cubs, and that's how we roll. We have the Bartmans. We have the ball go through Durham's legs. We have Les Lancaster forgetting the count and giving up a home run to someone with the Giant. We had the year that players used to not put their gloves over the face. Pitchers did when they were talking to the pitching coach and the other players, because you know why? Because Greg Maddux in the '89 playoffs said inside fastball, and Will Clark read his lips and he had a grand slam. That's what we're used to. We're used to Ted Lilly giving up a run and throwing his glove down in game 1 of the playoffs and completely. We're used to that kind of stuff. So when it didn't happen, it almost happened. Rajay Davis hit that homer and said, aha, this is how it happens this time. No, it didn't happen. We scored 2 runs. And then even on that last out, when Bryant throws the ball to Rizzo, he starts to slide. And I'm thinking, there it is. There it is. But the ball goes to Rizzo's face and he catches it. It finally happened for us. And Joe Madden was the perfect manager for that team. That team was very young and very talented. And he used to do things like he would bring a petting zoo in to spring training, or he would have American Legion Day during the season, which meant you don't get into the clubhouse before 5 o'clock. There's no batting practice. You just show up and play baseball like it's American Legion ball. He did stuff like that. Now, after the 17 season, when we ran out of gas, we did go to the division title or the National League Championship Series. We did go there, but that's kind of when Theo and Ricketts put the kibosh on. They don't do this crap anymore. And they started managing him from on high. Oh. And that's when he got fired after he tried to conform. After the 2019 season, he got fired. He went to Los Angeles, managed the Angels, found out that that's just how managing it is now. It comes from the top and you're just yes man. So he was the last of the managers who still had that kind of control, and you're just not going to see that anymore. There's still some managers that have that kind of autonomy, but as the Bochy's retire, good, as the Dusty Bakers retire for good, managing is just going to be, you're just another cog in the wheel, and you're going to do exactly what the general manager tells you to do. But Madden still had that kind of autonomy, brought a World Series to Chicago. So, Joe Madden, you are my George Washington.
I want to say something about Joe Madden. When you guys were building that team in 2013, all the way up through there, I was like, well, they got some good young players. Let's see what happens. I wasn't really upset or nothing, but the day you got Joe Madden, I thought, uh-oh. I try to keep a happy face and like, well, even Joe Madden can't turn this around. But when you got Joe Madden, I started getting really concerned. Like, things are different now in Chicago because that guy's good. And I'm hoping that's not the end of those guys. Maybe if a player becomes a manager, say Yachty comes back to St. Louis, there might be a little more give and take. Yachty's kind of a wild man anyway, but say a player of that ilk comes back and manages a team, maybe there could be a little old schoolness to it. I don't know. I'm hoping.
Yeah, this is interesting. Because manager before Joe Madden was Ricky Renteria, and we knew we had all this young talent coming, and we knew that we were probably going to be good. And Renteria we were fine with. 2014, yeah, we had this young team and talent still in the minors, but you could start to see flashes of things, and Renteria would have managed that 2015 team if Madden wouldn't have become available. So it was kind of a victim of circumstance. Then Ricky Renteria's next managing stint is with the White Sox. They were in the exact same situation. They were not that good, but that talent in the minor leagues was there, and he knew it was going to come up. And what did Reinsdorf do? He hired Tony La Russa to get them to the next level. So kind of feel sorry for Ricky Renteria because he kind of went through the same crap, different day. So, or some different teams. So. JJ, I want to tell you something.
Oh yeah.
I found these at that store in Potosi.
Yes.
1987 Kmart's Collector's Edition Stars of the Decade from Topps. That's why I'm wearing my Topps.
Love it. And I remember those. I forgot all about them until you brought those back.
Because in 87, I was in college. So I wasn't collecting cards or anything at this time. So I'd never seen these. And the box, there's 33 cards here. The box had never been opened. So there was gum. I couldn't help it. I had to open and see what was in here. But for the next 2 weeks, I'm just going to go halves on these.
I'm excited.
And I'm going to tell you something, JJ. This is how good of a friend I am. You live in Potosi.
Yeah.
If you go to the ice cream store / thrift store, I left one of these there.
Oh, I'll
for
be down
you.
there. Thank you.
There.
Saturday.
Go find them, and it'd be $5. Do not chew the gum.
All
But
right.
I'm gonna go through half these today and then half next week.
Oh,
I
sure.
guarantee you, I have Hall of Famers. That's all I have. These are the stars from the 60s, 70s, and 80s of these cards.
Oh, I love the pictures too and the uniforms.
So I'll go ahead and get started.
All right.
Frank Robinson.
Yes. MVP in both in National and American League.
Yeah, very good with the Reds and the Orioles. Never heard of this guy, by the way, Hall of Famer. Never heard of this guy. Carl Yastrzemski.
Oh, Triple Crown 67. Oh, yeah. Yes.
I do like the Kmart up there. I think that's pretty cool.
That's right.
25th anniversary collector's edition. Nolan Ryan, Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer. All-time great.
This guy is not a Hall of Famer.
Oh.
Pete Rose, he must have really sucked. You all know my feelings on Pete Rose.
Right? I agree with you.
Hall of Famer, Edward Murray.
Oh, yeah.
With power.
He get hit.
This guy is not a Hall of Famer. He will never be a Hall of Famer, but if he would have kept himself clean, could have been one of the all-time greats. I'm talking about Dr. K. White Gooden.
By the way, I read a statistic for the first 3 years of your career, he had more strikeouts than anyone in the history of baseball for the first 3 years of his career. That's pretty impressive.
Hall of Famer George Brett.
Oh, yeah, George Brett. He could put a bat on an aspirin. Hit that thing out there.
Hall of Famer Jim Rice.
Jim Rice. Oh, yeah. Lennon Rice.
Oh! Hall of Famer
Michael Schmidt.
Michael Jack Schmidt.
Michael Jack Schmidt.
Hall of Famer Wilver Dornell Stargell.
Oh, yes. Pops.
Hall of Famer Steve Carlton.
Oh, lefty. Was a Cardinal.
Hall of Famer Jim Palmer.
Yes. Great.
Not a Hall of Famer, but held one of the most prestigious records in baseball for decades. Roger Maris, the pride of Fargo, North Dakota.
Love Roger. Ended his career with the Cardinals.
Yes, he did. Hall of Famer Rod Carew.
One of my top 5 favorite players. I love Rod Carew.
Not a Hall of Famer, but had a very good, Hall of Very Good. Had a tremendous start to his career. The screwballer, Fernando Valenzuela.
Fernando. They just retired his number, by the way, the Dodgers.
Very nice, very nice. Hall of Famer, the greatest leadoff hitter of all time, Ricky Henderson.
Ricky Henderson. I am the greatest.
Now I am the greatest.
Yes.
Oh, and Hall of Famer, not my favorite cat as a human being because I thought he was so arrogant. He played for the Mets, but man, I have to respect him, the late Gary Carter.
Gary Carter. Oh, Jack Clark don't like Gary Carter, but yeah, Gary Carter was a great player. I love him in that Expo uniform.
Yeah, and then he went to the dark side. So
yeah, he went to the evil team.
Part 1. I'll open the rest of these next week. Who you got?
It's my last
one again.
Yeah, Rob Riggle and the whole cast of the other guys. Yeah, Alan Ginter, 6 cards. But before I open this, I'm going to show a couple of little treats I got. And maybe not a lot of people have these. I have Mason Wynn rookie cards. Springfield Cardinals, Mason Wynn right there. How about that?
Very
with
good.
the little S with the bird in there. How about that? And this is a Donruss Mason Wynn. It's not the prettiest card in the world, but that's nice. There's a Mason Wynn run right there. So I got 2 Mason Wynn cards. And now, who in the heck is this? I don't know who the hell that is. Oh my God. All right, we got a good one here. Hall of Famer, Burt Blyleven. Be home by 11 right there. Oh yeah, the curveball. One of the greatest curveballs in baseball history. This guy, you know what? If he was healthy this year, this team could be on the bubble for the playoffs. Well, probably not, but Steven Strasburg played at San Diego State for Tony Gwynn when he managed there. Let's see who else we got here. Okay, an outfielder for the Minnesota Twins, Royce Lewis. I don't know who that is, Vince.
No, he's an outfielder for the Twins.
Well, thanks, man. See, that's what I do. I come to Vince and he fills in the missing pieces right there. All right. This is this is such an old looking card. This is pretty cool. A pitching gym, Corbin Burns. There you go.
Cool.
I tell you what, that dude, that's going to hurt Milwaukee if he leaves next year. That's the ace of that team.
Please vote. Please leave.
Please. Okay, this guy here is Bryson. It's the miniature card. Bryson Stott from the Phillies, right there. So he's a big. I tell you what, the Phillies are going to be trouble for people if they get in the playoffs this year. If they make it, they could be. Now this guy, I have no clue who it is. It's some guy in a windbreaker named T.J. Osborne. Who the heck is that? Is he the one that sang "On the Wings of Love"? On the wings of love.
No.
Is that guy?
TJ, Ozzy,
Yeah.
Jack. I don't know. He's one of the Osborne brothers.
Osborne's
Joan
no best. Yeah.
Would have got it was one of us. Yeah.
I don't even know. I'll have to read the back of that to see even who that is. Something about the Grammys. I don't know about that. All right, man.
I'm an old man. Did you watch Sunday night's game between the Phillies and the Nationals on ESPN at the Little League World Series park?
I saw the Phillies in the playoffs cheering for the Pennsylvania team, and they were all Kyle Schwarber and those guys were in the stands having a good time. I didn't get to see the game. No, I did. I saw bits. I saw the highlights. Is what I saw.
Yeah, I think it was Bryson Stott. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was him. They let them pimp their bats for this. His bat looked just like a pencil. It was the coolest thing.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, like Bryce Harper's bat, it was green and he had like a Philly Fanatic themed, but he came up the bat, Stott came up the bat, I think it was him, and it looked just like a giant pencil. It was so cool with an eraser and everything. So
what do you love the idea of the Little League World Series and they play a game there? I know they already named I love it. I don't know about you, but the Tigers and the Yankees, I think, are next year.
see, I loved it. What I really loved about it was the two kids. I don't know, they had played in the Little League World Series. So they had a couple of the kids announcing, doing the play-by-play in the color, and they wouldn't like calling you, oh, there's a slider on the outside, but one was doing play-by-play and one was doing color. Then they had former alum of the Little League World Series interviewing during innings. So they had a lot of, not adults, but kids who were alums of the World Series. They did all the interviewing and all the announcing and everything. That was cool. It was more of a spectacle. The game was completely secondary to the interviews and everything else going on. But yeah, I watched it for the first 5 innings and I thought it was really cool. And then I got tired and went to bed.
Well, Tennessee had a girl on their team, and her name was Stella, and they called the team Stella and the Fellas. And I was rooting for him because I was like, come on, Stella. And she was in the dugout and cheering them on and getting them all, riled up. It was great. It's good to see. I'm glad they do that. And there was a stat that came out this week that more kids under the age of 12 play baseball than any other sport. So that's good to see the kind of a rebirth of baseball going on. I think they're doing the right thing with marketing the superstars and doing the Field of Dreams game and the Little League World Series and all that stuff. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there are some things about Manfred that I like. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not a tremendous fan of, but I can say this: since he's been commissioner, since he took over for, C League, since he took over for C League, he has put a lot of effort, and they've seen a lot of progress in expanding the sport into other countries and into the youth, not just America, but other countries too. So, for every goofy thing that Manfred does, like calling the World Series championship a hunk of metal and not taking it away from the Astros and letting some teams push them around to get what they want. Oakland. Yeah, by the way, the White Sox, their leases or their agreement with I don't even know what they call it anymore.
Kaminsky? It used to be Kaminsky.
Used to be Comiskey, US Cellular, whatever they're calling that thing anymore.
Yeah.
Their lease is up in 5 years, and the stadium was built in 91. I think it opened, and it's quite dated. It's not a good part of town, and they're talking about maybe it's time to move this team either into the suburbs or completely relocate it.
Oh,
so
I'd hate to see that.
Yeah. So
maybe a new stadium I wouldn't be appalled with. I went to that stadium and it was just, it was a major league game, but it was kind of bland. I love the old Kaminsky, but it was falling apart. But that new stadium, it's just nothing special about it, I don't think.
Yeah, I think next summer we're going to try to do. Me and Max are going to try to do a White Sox, Cubs, Brewers kind of thing.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I've been by Comiskey, but I've just never been there before. So I'd kind of like to see a game there. I would have loved to have went to the old Comiskey when it was falling apart.
I went about 5 times. I was in the Navy, and I take the tram down and go see a double hitter when the Brewers and the White Sox are playing each other. So that's pretty cool.
Well, JJ, it's been a fun day.
It has been fun.
And next week I'm excited. We'll have trivia back. Max will be back at school, so not going to have his work schedule screwing everything up. I think he's chomping at the bit a little bit to get back in here and to show everybody what a great trivia meister he is, and what a great baseball fan and mind he is. So.
And Corby Baker, it's time to put the hammer down on that kid.
Yeah. Let's do it. Well, JJ, you have a good week.
You too,
and
sir.
I will talk to you next week.